Okay, looks like we're live. Let's just wait for it to come through on the watch page. We got some people waiting here. Awesome. Mute myself. Well, hello and welcome, everybody. This is Michele Christensen of OneNote Worthy Life, and this is the first Take Note chat of the year 2019. This is going to be kind of a plan with me style in which Jared and I are both going to share our yearly planning for 2019. Now, if you don't know me, I host the OneNote Bullet Journal Facebook group, and I'm also a YouTube creator, and I'm a blogger at OneNoteWorthyLife.com. We'll be taking your questions and comments throughout this video. You can type them in the chat box. It should be right on your screen next to this live video. And if you're catching the replay later, you can type questions or comments into the video description. So, Jared, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
All right. Hey there, everybody. My name is Jared DeCamp. I'm the organizer of the Learn OneNote conference, and I also lead the OneNote membership group called Learn OneNote Hub. The big project that I'm working on right now for the first quarter of 2019 is a book and a course to help you transition into the modern OneNote. If you're already on my email list, you might be hearing about that shortly. And of course, you can go to learnonconference.com to join that email list. If you post or chat about this particular Take Note chat that we're doing, remember to use the hashtag Take Note Chat so we can find your posts and kind of get connected to you wherever you're at on social media. Today's session is going to have 3 parts to it. First, we're going to have Michele is going to jump on and show us her yearly overview process. And then second, I'm going to show you my yearly planning process. And then third, we'll both jump on there and talk about the theme that we each have for this year individually and kind of how we're each respectively implementing that theme. So maybe, Michele, you can get us into it now.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And how's that look, Jared? You should see my, not yet?
No, yep, you're good to go.
Okay. All right. So this is a simple tool that I use every year, but it's very useful. It's just a grid layout of my entire year. And it's a table in OneNote. It's 3 columns wide by 4 rows deep. And one of the reasons I like this layout is that it puts each quarter on 1 row. So when I fill this out, I put in kind of all the big things that I know about, all the big rocks, so to speak, if you've heard that story. And these are all the kind of like things like birthdays and trips and big events that I have to make sure I have time for. It also lets me know when I could slot in a bigger project if I needed to. Like you can see this year, May is completely empty. And the only thing that April has in it is the US tax returns are due. So if I were to do my tax return early, I could have 2 full months to devote to a big project if I needed to. And so if you have something you need to do, like a big home repair or something that's going to be disruptive, like an elective medical procedure or something, this kind of tells me when to fit those things in. So I'm not juggling things around and whatnot. And one of the things I did differently this year, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is I've left it really empty. I haven't really put in any big projects there because one of my goals for this year is to get on top of a lot of little tiny things. So, yeah, I think that's kind of the gist of it, is that I haven't put any big things in, any big projects, because I'm trying to take a different approach this year. And I'll talk about that more later. And if you want more detail on this grid overview, there's a link to the video description that to another video I did on this year. So, Jared, do we before I wrap up, do we have anything in the chat?
Yeah, it looks pretty quiet so far in the chat, other than Joe is from Iowa and is making a comment about being new to OneNote and the bullet journaling. So I just kind of recommended your bullet journal Facebook group. So I'm sure you probably had a lot of new people to OneNote kind of joining at the beginning of the year. So that's a great spot for everybody to go to. And I just wanted to comment on your process. I really appreciate you sharing it with us all. I picked it up from you last year, and I like that, starting with the big things and then getting even smaller from there. So thanks for sharing that. But I think we're good to keep on going. No more questions or comments in the chat right now.
All right. So before I turn it over to Jared to go into the next part, I want to mention, again, 2 resources for you if you find this grid helpful. There is a link to a video I just did a few days ago on this grid in the description of this video. And I taught a much more in-depth version of creating this grid and filling it in during the 2018 Planning Masterclass that Jared and I presented last January. And Jared also taught his planning methods in that class. And what we decided to do was offer that class for sale again this year. So, Jared, why don't you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of valuable information in that class, and we kept a lot of the same things, like the processes that don't need to be changed. We didn't change them, but we did kind of update it for 2019 with some of the new processes. So inside the masterclass package, we added some brand new content and new bonuses. It'll kind of help you plan out your entire year. Now we're in 2019 year, so to help you with that year, I even updated some of the dates for like some of the major holidays in the United States and kind of got you some monthly templates of the new year. So those kind of things are updated, as well as I think there's like purging your OneNote notebook, which is a bonus that we offer. So there's a bunch of new stuff in there, and you can check out the sales page to find out more information. And then what's interesting is we decided this year to, even though we added some new stuff, we decided to cut the pricing basically in half. So that's a good option for you if you're looking for a little extra help for planning your new year.
Yeah, and shout out to you, Jared. You really added a lot to that. When I took a look at it, there's quite a bit of new stuff in there, so that's awesome. So the link to that, if you want more information, is in the description to this video. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then we can move to our next section.
Great. I think I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen now. Let me know.
Looking good.
Okay, so I want to share kind of like my planning process, and really what I want to do, the critical thing for me to point out is that this year I'm actually using 2 notebooks. I'm using like a getting things done influence notebook, and then I'm also using a planner notebook. So this is my getting things done notebook. You can see here my notebook list here, the planner, and then the getting things done influence. So I have different sections here. Quick Notes is an interesting one because I have been using at the end of last year the Quick Notes shortcut on the keyboard, and I'm having to adapt this right now because actually a recent update within the last 30 days or so on the OneNote iOS app, it removed Quick Notes. Instead, I'm using sticky notes here. So like you can see that it's logged in. So I was at the gym and I wanted to do a little bit of research on some fitness stuff. So I was able to just put that in the sticky notes, and then now I can move it around in my next action, delegate, waiting for list, someday, projects, and archived. Then let me show you my planner. So what I do is this planner page is largely unchanged from the second half of last year, though what I did decide to do is in my list, so like it's Jared, Andreas is my wife, and then we have like our personal chores. This is this Friday, these are the things that are going on. In my personal list, I was previously doing the ABCDE method and prioritizing my tasks, but I found that maybe I was kind of subconsciously ignoring those. So instead, I just have this list of tasks, and then I separate and have D tasks that are things that I want to delegate. So if I want really my wife to do something, or I need her to do something, I'll put something down here, and then she does the same, and then we can refer back to this and kind of pass things back and forth, delegating things rather than having to communicate or email back and forth. Let's see. Just a couple more quick comments. I refer back to the Getting Things Done notebook, and then I build out my planner pages for things that I want to get done that day. And then if there's something that's like a specific time, like a meeting, I have this due meetup in Laguna Beach. I have this also in my Outlook calendar as a reminder. So are there any other questions or clarification you want to kind of jump in there, Michele?
Well, we do have a question on Quick Notes. T says, Quick Notes. Wow, I use it extensively on my phone. I had no idea it was available for OneNote.
Yes. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Quick Notes. So Quick Notes, prior to this, you could hit the little 3-dot ellipsis up in the upper right-hand corner on your app and then hit Quick Notes. And then that would go to your default section in OneNote. And actually, let me see if I can remember. But I think I stopped the setup there. In OneNote 2016, you could do a keyboard shortcut and pop up a new Quick Note. But because of the way OneNote for Windows 10 is built and like the software behind it, that's kind of going away, and it really is like in the process of changing right now. So sticky notes seems to be a good replacement tool for that.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder if T, maybe you were thinking about a different app with that also is called Quick Notes, because Jared was referring to a function of called Quick Notes within OneNote. And Jared, I have two questions I'm going to send your way.
Okay.
So one is from CD. It says, "How do you create every day's name and date manually?"
Yeah, so I do that manually,
Mm-hmm.
and what I do is I've created this page template. There's no templates in OneNote for Windows 10, so I created in OneNote 2016 desktop version, and then I set that within this section in 2016. Maybe I should open it. Let me see here. What's today? So Friday. So every time I add a page, there I just added a new page. You can see this template, and I have it set up in 2016 as a template, like days 2019, and it's the default template for the section. And then when I do that, when I go back into OneNote for Windows 10 and I add a new page, the template continues throughout. And then I change this up here.
Yeah. So technically, so the first time you did it manually, but then you saved it as a template in OneNote 2016, and said that that's the default page template for this section. So that even carries through in OneNote for Windows 10, so that every time you create it, it creates using that template. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. It does not carry over into OneNote on the web. And then you do have to change this date up here in the top.
Mm-hmm. And then CD also wants to know, is there a keyboard shortcut for Quick Notes?
There is, but it's with OneNote 2016 only, and it's either Control M or Windows key M.
Okay. Awesome. I'm impressed that you knew that off the top of your head. I thought we were going to have to put that in the comments later.
No, I'm trying to remember why. Again, this is the behind the scenes look. So like I'm in that process of transition right now.
Mm-hmm.
So a month ago, I was like doing that all the time. Any thought, I'd use that shortcut and pop it into OneNote, and then it would go into this getting things done quick notes. And you can actually see the purple background because of the way I had it set up. But it's changing. So yeah, that's all I'll say about it.
Okay. Then, okay, so Bob wants to know, in the iOS app, the sticky notes is in the app. Is this, and then comma, is the sticky note on the Windows 10 machines not in the OneNote software?
I do not believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that may be coming in the future.
Mm-hmm. But they're pretty well integrated already. Is that correct?
Sort of. So, so behind the scenes, Microsoft, they have the development team that works on sticky notes, also works on the OneNote product, also works on Microsoft To Do. So those three things, you can guess that moving forward, the integrations will become more and more.
All right, great. And then this was a question for me, but I think you could answer it as well. How do you limit the width of the columns, speaking on tables, to avoid the overflow when it grows too large once the text goes in? You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of trial and error, but like the table is going to go as wide as this note container is here. So you can see I drag it out and it pushes things down, or I can drag it together. And the same thing kind of goes with a table as well. The cell's size will adjust.
Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, my thinking is like, I just don't worry about it. My OneNote pages are, these pages anyway, are specific to be like really functional. So I just don't worry about it if they become different sizes or whatever. So that's my answer. There's not really, that's from Andrea or Andrea. There's not really a good way to, at this time, to limit the table width, unfortunately. So
I agree with you 100%, Michelle, because like
yeah.
I really think that OneNote is best for like working material and not necessarily for finished product.
Mm-hmm.
You need a beautiful, perfectly formatted table, maybe Excel or Word
Mm-hmm.
is better.
Yeah, and you can also any document that you can create as a PDF. So you could use Excel, Word, Canva. People use Procreate on the Apple ecosystem. You can make a document and save it as a PDF and then insert that as your page background, and that can help to have a nicer, more finished looking page.
Yep, good point.
So,
Okay,
all right. Go ahead.
I'll stop. I'm just going to stop sharing now.
Okay.
So.
And I just wanted to mention one thing for clarity. You mentioned prioritizing using the ABCDE method, and that there's a lot of different systems with that same either ABC or ABCDE or whatever. And this is specifically, we were talking about the system as taught by Brian Tracy, and a prior Take Note chat covered that. So if you're curious about that, there's a link to that in the comments as well.
Great point.
Okay, so I think we got here we go. One more question in the comments, and then we can move on. Is there a workaround for a merge cell in a table with OneNote Windows 10? So that I'm going to guess that's from Ross. In Excel, you can merge cells, and I don't think you can do that in a table in OneNote Windows 10. Tables just don't have the same level of functionality that spreadsheets do, and that just is. Jared, anything to add there?
No, I think you're right. There's no real merge cell.
All right. So let me get back to my page here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will be moving on to there. You should see a green screen with a graphic on it, Jared.
Yep.
Okay. So for the last few years, I've picked a word or a theme to help guide me. And in 2017, it was completion. And my goal was to complete things and get them off my plate. I have a tendency to take on way too much. And because I'm juggling so many things, I tend to do just like the most urgent 80% of something and then leave the last like 20% undone because it's not as urgent as the next thing. And this has just created a snowballing problem. So I wanted to change this behavior in 2017, but I didn't take the process far enough is the short story, and it just didn't work that well. So in 2018, I kind of took a crack at basically the same problem, and I went with the theme word of pruning. And I was planning on kind of pruning my life, pruning my projects, my to-do list to get down into a smaller group of things that was on my plate, but that I could put more time and attention on. Just the same way as when you prune a plant, what's left behind is more productive and more fruitful. So both of these themes, I feel like were a good try, and they served me well, and I liked the mindset, but they didn't really work as well as I wanted to. Like I just didn't get results very much. So for 2019, I wanted to take a bit of a different approach, and I have a much more detailed explanation of this in a video that's linked in the comments. But what I did was I picked another theme, which is be ready. And when I started to kind of brainstorm about that, I got into the areas like I want to be able to travel more easily. I don't want to do things last minute. I want to have, I want to be able to do like repairs and projects around the house more easily and that kind of thing. And then I drilled down until I could get that down into like small little tiny things that would help me get to that end goal. All right. And I'm just checking my notes here to see what else I want to show you on the screen here. Okay, so when I started this theme and I kind of drilled down into all these little tasks, I had this image in my mind of doing a big mind map type thing that could kind of show how the projects were interlinked and things like that. It turned out not to be that useful. And what I ended up doing was this list form, because with a list, it's really easy to edit, and you can also drag things up and down in priority. So for example, I'm going to drag this down a few rows, and then I can drag this down. You can also drag things up. And this was helpful because I can change the order as I go. And when I decided where to start with this, I didn't have to look at the whole list of probably, I don't know, there's probably 50 or 60 things on there. I could just look at 2 and say, well, which of these is more important, and move them up and down and keep kind of doing that until I got the list in roughly the order to start in. So that was really helpful. And just one more comment on this. I have declutter at the top of my list. And I know like everybody talks about this, and there's all kinds of, whole channels and blogs devoted to it. And I'm not super cluttery in terms of like keeping old papers or clothes that don't fit or whatever. But I use a daily habit of 15 minutes of decluttering a day. And what I use it as a chance to like put things away. And I do like regular, what we would call decluttering, and kind of just tidying up and putting things back where they belong, filing things, that kind of thing. And I got behind on this habit. So that's like kind of my first thing I'm going to tackle is this, get my habit tracker current for this decluttering habit. So again, I go into this in a lot more detail, but my main reason for showing this is that the big theme was this idea of be ready. I broke it down into lots of smaller projects and even tasks. And now I'm on to my like first thing, and I have a specific action to take, which is to do more decluttering and get my habit tracker caught up. So hopefully that's clear. Does that make sense, Jared?
Yeah, that's really great stuff. One maybe a little trick with the lists that maybe we can show people. If you hover your mouse over declutter, and there's that little like gray arrow to the left.
Okay, I'm going to try and get that to show.
You can hold it over declutter. There you go. And then if you double click, I think. Let's see.
Oh.
So like it kind of condenses that list. So like you were just mentioning, maybe if you don't want to have to see everything that's there, you can condense and expand. And it doesn't have to have, like you have a to-do tag here. It doesn't need a tag. The only thing that needs is like a tab underneath it, or it could be a bullet list or whatever. So just wanted to point that out.
That is a really cool trick. I'm going to do that again. So if we look at this, be ready to travel, I have 3 subtasks under it. And hopefully you can see my mouse looks like a cross right now. Behind it, there's a little gray arrow tab. And I'm going to double click it. And you can see that those 3 items got kind of folded under it, but I have a plus sign. And so if I, oops. And then how do I double? Yeah, if I double click it again, it expands itself. So that's a great tip. And I will tell you, honestly, I did not know that. That was like, this is live. And that was me learning something live. So that's really awesome. And it's, just a side note, it's one of the things I love about OneNote is that there are so many things to learn, and I'm just always learning. So that's great. And also really helpful because like you said, a lot of these things, this is only part of the list, but some of them, if there were like 10 little sub projects under it, I might not want to see that every time I look at this.
Right. Yeah, I'm learning right there along with you. It looks like the chat is pretty much good. There's a question. I use a Mac and it seems to have less workability than a PC version of OneNote. Any place I can go for Mac users for OneNote? I can just kind of say, yes, OneNote 2016, the desktop version, is the one with what people think of as the most features. However, OneNote for Windows 10 and OneNote for Mac are getting more and more similar in their features. And so that should be helpful for the Mac users in the near future. I don't use a Mac, so I can't really elaborate any more on that.
Yeah, I think, what Jared said about like Microsoft wants to make the experience more consistent across all the devices. So I would expect that the Mac features will be being come onto par with OneNote for Windows 10.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's all good. You can.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Great. Okay.
All right. And okay, Jared, how about your yearly theme?
Yeah. Thanks for that recap. Great stuff, Michelle. I appreciate it. So I'd say that my theme for this year is urgency. So many of the goals and the resolutions that I have this year, what I'm doing is I'm focusing on knocking those off as soon as possible. I don't want to wait until all the way to the end of the year to see these goals met that maybe I could accomplish much, much sooner. So, for example, there's a goal that I have. I want to go kayaking. And I mean, eventually I may want to buy a kayak or whatever, but the first goal is I want to go kayaking. So instead of scheduling that for like June or July and thinking about that, for the next 6 months, I'm scheduling to complete it in the first quarter and knock it out right away and have a little bit of urgency around that project or that goal.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea because with something like kayaking, there's no reason to wait. Like there's no time specific, element to that. And there's also value in doing it sooner because it's fun, and then you get to have the fun sooner. And like you said, you don't need to think about it and kind of carry it forward on your planner for 6 months.
Right. And in the best case scenario is like I can finish all these goals in the first quarter and then beginning the second quarter have a whole new set of goals and desires that I can kind of work to, so that I don't want to finish, like if by focusing for the first quarter, hopefully I will finish the 2019 year without anything left undone. And then of course, like there's some resolutions that I have or goals that are a little bit more ongoing. And so I'll track those throughout the year and I'll continue to work on them throughout the year. But for those things that I can accomplish without a time frame, I want to try to get them done with a little bit of urgency around it.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And it almost sounds like you're focusing a little bit more on quarters as opposed to kind of like daily and yearly. So that's an interesting kind of intermediate time frame. And there's a ton of like books and pre-written journals and programs and plans and stuff like that that focus on a 90-day period. And so I do think that's kind of an you know, a neat period because it's long enough to make a big change or to do something big, but it's short enough that you can see the end of it.
That's the hope.
Yeah. So let's just check the chat. Yeah, we got nothing additional in the chat. So I think we're just about done. I just want to remind everybody that we do have that special offer on the updated master planning class that we gave last January. And the link is in the description of this video.
Yeah, so it's been a good experience kind of updating and doing this whole new planning stuff for the new year. I always like it, and I think that it'll help you. The Planning with OneNote Masterclass will help you. I sent out an email earlier today to everybody on the email list, and it's nice to see a few of you take advantage of that right away. So that's super cool. And then if you purchased last year, Michelle and I, we talked, and we want to like provide all these updated benefits to you at no additional cost. So you should also check your email because I sent out an updated link to the updated OneNote notebook download. So you can get all those bonus material that we added for this year 100% free. And that's just our small way to say thank you to all of you for the support. And also, Michelle was kind enough, thank you, Michelle, publicly, thank you, that you were able to allow us to put this material inside of the Learn OneNote Hub membership group that I have. And so if you're a member of the OneNote group, I think we might have a few people on the call right now. Go ahead and check your membership notebook, and all this content is available. So thank you to Michelle, and thank you to everyone who is watching us and supporting us in any way that you can. It's a pretty fun process. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, agreed. So yes, thank you to everyone who has joined us for these chats. I really love doing them. I know Jared likes them. They're a lot of fun. We like the audience input. So thank you for, watching and joining us. So if you like today's chat, I would love it if you would subscribe by hitting the subscribe button and hit the thumbs up so we know you liked it. And my wish for you is that your 2019 is better than you can even imagine. Our next live chat session is going to be on February 19th at 1:30 p.m. and we will be covering getting things done and OneNote. So that's going to be really awesome.
Great. And we just got an email alert from Danielle, either Danielle or Nicole. So thanks a lot for the support and the purchase of the masterclass. Remember, when you're talking about this, take note chat. We're here every month. Use the hashtag take note chat on social media, and we can find each other. If you have any questions for me or want to connect, a good place to reach out is on Twitter at Jared_DeCamp. Have a great and happy New Year, everyone.
And don't say goodbye yet, because we just got a question.
Okay.
In your OneNote course, is it system agnostic? For example, I don't use the bullet journal or GTD, so I want to take what I learned from your course into whatever system I'm creating. What do you think, Jared?
That's a good question. I would say that it is, in the sense that, I'm a little bit more influenced on the getting things done concept, and I feel like you're, if I can speak for you, are a little more influenced on the bullet journaling concept. And so I feel that with having two possible kind of perspectives, then you can kind of take and choose from us, and as well as I think that we give you enough information to adapt to your own planning process. And one of the good things, of course, if you're on the fence, of course, Michelle and I here every month. I'm blogging, she's working in the Facebook group. Just, I think we say like 14 or 30 days or so. If you check it out, download it, anything's not up to par, of course, we'll give you your money back. So don't worry about that. But I think yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the whole course is taught in, and I assume, long live, that you're talking about the masterclass that we just offered. The whole thing is done and filmed in OneNote, but I do think that there's value in it. Like, I go through that grid system, and Jared shows his planning systems, and they're in OneNote, but you could probably use that in any system. And like Jared said, if you download it and it's, not your cup of tea, you can get a full refund. So, all right. So I think now we can sign off. Miss Markle, thank you. She says very exciting. Can't wait for the next one. Thank you. Hope to see you there. And that's good. So I think we're good. We're going to sign off. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.